Hey y'all, welcome to the Blade Lab. Today I'm going to be doing a review of this here knife. This is the Tactile Knife Company Archer. I've been sort of procrastinating this one for a while. Don't really know why. Spoiler alert, as usual, I really like it. So that's not the reason why I haven't done the review. I just haven't got around to it. So yeah, so let's look at it. This was something that, as always, was purchased with my own funds, so I'm indebted to no one. My wife might disagree, but at least not to any knife companies. Let's just look at the basic specs of this thing here. This is coming in MagnaCut steel, and I believe they list the hardness range at, I think they list it as 63 to 64. I tested mine with my Lieb hardness tester, and I got a reading of 63.6, so that is excellent. As you can see, it is a frame lock. It does have a lock bar insert and over travel stop. The handle material is this beautifully milled titanium, and in this particular version has these zirconium inserts. Generally, when you get the versions that have inserts, and not all of them do, but the versions that have the inserts generally, I think, cost about $100 more than the standard version. I'm kind of a zirconium whore, so I saw this and it really kind of pushed me over the edge, so I went for that one. Let's look at it from the more details. The centering as I received it was excellent. It has a fully milled pocket clip, which is, let's call it medium carry. Unfortunately, the clip doesn't have the same milling that you get on the scales, which would have been kind of a cool touch, but that's okay. The hardware is basically all on the lock side, and I believe it is all T8. Let me just make sure so I don't misspeak. Yeah, T8, yeah, all T8. And it's, if you can see this, but it's really nice hardware too, just in terms of being, the tooling is nice and deep and real kind of sturdy hardware, so that's cool. Can't remember if it's, I believe it's titanium also, the hardware. So yeah, you can see it's, from the top, it is, I don't know if you would technically call that contoured, but it is in effect contoured, because it has this, again, I don't know if it's going to come through on the camera, but it's, so this top section, just looking at it from the end here, this section here is kind of flat, and this is actually slightly hollowed. And they say, I believe, that this this sort of feather milling pattern is sort of goes with the name Archer. You know, it's sort of like the feather on an arrow or some such thing. So I guess that's good. This knife was, as I mentioned, it's manufactured by Tactile Knife Company, makers of Rockball and a number of other models. The Bear slip joint. There's a new sort of super lock knife, whose name I can't remember, but it's all there on their website. I'll link it down below. But yeah, so this knife was manufactured by them, but it was designed by TJ Schwarz. I believe it's TJ Schwarz. Yeah. If not, I will correct it on screen. He is, if you don't know him, he is a pretty famous knife designer, and he is most famous for designing the Koenig Arius. So you might now see some similarities in design. In particular, I think the sort of opening hole in Fuller is, has reminiscent of the Arius, although certainly not the same by any means. And I also find that we'll talk about it in the action, and we'll go into more detail about that. But I find that just the action and the deployments kind of feel similar between the two knives, which makes sense since they were designed by the same person. So yeah, let's look at the blade for a minute. You can see that it's kind of a bead blast, or I don't know if it's a bead blast or a vapor blast. It's not my favorite knife finish. First of all, it picks up fingerprints pretty easily. It's also this is, you're not going to have corrosion issues with this because it is MagnaCut, but bead blast can contribute to corrosion because it opens the pores or whatnot in the steel. Not a concern here. I just find it to be a little bit boring, honestly, but it is what it is. I think it still looks fine. It's still a very attractive knife, I think. I would have preferred it if this was a really nice belt satin, or even a stonewash. I think would have been better. And both of those finishes, I think, are better at hiding sort of scratches or any sort of marks that you might get on the blade. So yeah, that's a bit of a disappointment, but it is what it is. You might notice that that there's some milling inside the little fuller on either side of the opening hole. That's a pretty cool touch, I think. What really attracted me to this knife was a number of things. One, it's a good size for me. The overall length is, I don't have that handy. Overall length of the knife is about 8 1/4 inches, maybe just under 8 1/4 inches. The blade length is 3.5 inches, measuring from sort of the far away part of the frame. The cutting edge is also 3.5 inches. So that is, for me personally, that's kind of right in my wheelhouse of knives that I like to carry. I do like that it's a frame lock. Not everyone does, but frame locks are a time-tested design, and they have detent balls, which gives them a nicer action than a lot of these sort of spring-operated knives that we're seeing now. These axis locks and ball locks and plunge locks, etc. So I'm kind of old school, where I prefer a liner lock or a frame lock just for the action. Nowadays, we're starting to see more kind of button compression locks, which in my opinion are kind of the best of all worlds, but maybe in a future edition or a different model. Materials on this are, as I've already said, are great. I said that I love zirconium. MagnaCut is a great balanced steel, especially when it's run hard like this one is at 63.6 HRC. And the action on this knife is, well, that's something we need to talk about. So when I first received this knife out of box, and I was going to show the box, but I can't find it right now, so I know I have it somewhere. But the action out of box was kind of ridiculous. And that's going to lead me to another topic too. But when I say ridiculous, I mean that the detent was just really, really strong. It was like almost so strong that I couldn't open it, with a flipper. It was, or if I could, it was legitimately painful. And likewise with the reverse flick and the thumb flick were just almost impossible. So, as I just received the knife, I had to immediately open it up. And, some people are not going to want to do this, especially for a knife that isn't cheap. You might just want to send it back to Tactile And by the way, I 100% guarantee that they would have no problem fixing that for you. I just didn't, I was waiting for it. I got it. I didn't want to just put it back in the mail and send it to them. So, and I also have no problem adjusting detent pressure. So what you do with a frame lock is, if it's too strong, you got to disassemble it, of course. Take out the over travel stop, which is also the lock bar insert, and then you're just going to sort of bend the lock bar out, sort of away from the blade. First you're going to note like how far it is bent in without the blade attached, just to see what the pressure is out from the factory. And then what you're going to want to do is just bend it back a little bit, little by little, just so that it, when it's resting, not pressed against the blade, that it's a little bit closer to the frame side. So that's what that does, is effectively place less pressure on the detent ball pressing against the frame, and it makes it generally easier to open the knife. And again, you're going to want to be careful when you do that. Just do it, a tiny bit at a time, and usually it just takes a tiny little bit. It might be the difference in the starting position of the lock bar and the ending position of the lock bar might be a millimeter. Just that little bit makes a big difference. And in my case, it just took that one small adjustment, and now the detent is just about perfect for my taste. It's I would say that it is, with the flipper tab, basically unfailable for me. I can sort of come up here on it and make it fail, but if I'm going to do it with my actual fingertip like you would, no, I can't fail it. And the reverse flick is also very snappy. Thumb flick, also very good. So yeah, I don't even know how to grade that because it's as it is, it's great. As I received it, it was completely unworkable. So take that for what you will. Yeah, so now that we're talking about that, how I received it from factory, this is something that I just saw on a Neves Knives video talking about Tactile, and this is a thing with them. I don't know why. I really, like Neves said, it's an American company. They're based in outside of Dallas, Texas, I think. They make this is 100% American-made knife, as are, I believe, all of their knives. So I, as an American, am rooting for them, and I want them to do well. But they have this sort of history of, when they come out with a new model, there seems to frequently be either quality control issues or some kind of design issues. And in this case, it was a quality control issue. I don't know how anybody could have tested that detent and sent it out the way that it was, but they did. And so it's something they really need to sort of work on, especially this one, because this is, by their own description, sort of their premium, their sort of utmost model. So it really ought to be going out perfect, honestly. So there is that. I think it would help them a lot. It might not have in my particular case, but I think it would help them generally if, before they actually released a model, when they got their first prototypes, if they would circulate it to some of the more reputable YouTube channels, with the understanding that it wouldn't be made public until later, but get some feedback about some issues like the Gimping has been an issue on some knives. Rockwall had an issue with the detent ball, I think, sort of falling out at first, and just different things. Get that free feedback. Make the changes, and then you won't have these sort of problems come up. On that same note, I mentioned Gimping. There is Gimping on this lock bar, or flipper tab, but I think you can see it's really shallow, and it has almost no effect. It feels very smooth to the touch, and that actually sort of exacerbated the problem with a hard detent. So it would be better if this Gimping was sharper. And it would probably be better too if it went, just around the corner there, or maybe even all the way down the flat. So, for people wanted to sort of push button instead of it doing the light switch. So that is one area for improvement. What else do we have here? We got the dimensions. Oh, so speaking of dimensions, so we already compared this to the, this is the full-size Koenig Arius, and it is a bit smaller than the Arius. Let's throw in the good old Spyderco PM2. You can see that they are just about the same length. Per usual, the Archer has much more cutting edge. Let's compare it to a knife that's kind of, I guess, pretty close to the same price category. Also American made, sort of small batch, and that is the McNeese PM2. This is the Tonto version. These have the same blade length, but the Mac 2 is shorter. So there is that one. Another knife a lot of people might be familiar with is the Demco 8020.5. This is, of course, the Taiwan-made version. They also have, I can probably pull it out, the American-made version, which is also, I guess, about in the same price category, would be the Demco 8020S or Demco 8020. So the Demco is clearly a little bit bigger overall and heavier. And I think that will do for size comparisons. I do not remember what the weight is on this. So I'm going to just grab my big old postal scale and we will weigh it alive. I have a smaller scale, but I would have to fish around upstairs for that. So sorry about this. It is still accurate, even though it's gigantic. I don't even know if you can see those numbers because the way it's slanted. But let me tear this. It is now set to ounces. Tear. Can you see it? It's I don't know if you can see it, but it says 4.7 ounces. So yeah, it's not exactly the ratio that some people might favor, but to me 4.7 ounces is perfect for a EDC. I don't mind the weight at all. I actually prefer a slightly heavier knife, so it's up to you what you like. As far as the blade design, it is basically, it's a straight back blade. Can I find something here to set this against? Yeah, that's just a box. So you can see that it is really pretty much ruler straight across the back. And as a result of that, it's not going to be the best knife for sort of detail cutting, to actually sort of get down on, the camera is right on top of this. So in order to sort of get the point involved, you're going to have to sort of bend your wrist a fair amount. But, certainly doable. It's just not, if you're going to be sort of cutting stuff out of cardboard all day, this wouldn't be the knife you'd want to choose for that. On the other hand, it has a pretty good amount of belly, so it's going to be good for sort of cutting, things on a cutting board, or cutting rope, cutting tubing, that kind of thing. So it's going to be excellent for that purpose. The blade stock on this is, as I measured it, 0.122 inches, so pretty average for EDC knives. This is a very good slicer. It's almost a full flat grind. So yeah, it's good for pretty much all EDC tasks, with the reservation for detail, sort of tip cutting. The blade is ground pretty thin, I would say. It came at, I think it was 24 degrees per side, which is kind of ridiculous. I would absolutely like to see manufacturers giving us knives sharpened to 17 degrees per side, or at the very most 20 degrees per side, because these are not hatchets, they are pocket knives. But at 24 degrees, it was 12.5 thousandths behind the edge. I have since sharpened it to a 16 degree per side bevel angle, and at 16 degrees it is 16 thousandths of an inch behind the edge, which is still pretty good. I would like to see it a little bit thinner, but you certainly can't complain about that. Let's go on to the ergonomics. The ergonomics are good, I would say. It's not great, but it's good. It's a pretty thin knife overall. What is the actual width of it? Is going to be under half an inch, so it's thinner than your typical knife. And because this pocket clip is sort of towards the back of the knife, that's gonna, if you really bear down on it, I can feel that pocket clip kind of digging in, right about here. So you're not going to want to do a lot of heavy cutting with this knife. Not that most people probably will. For just EDC tasks, it's perfectly comfortable. It's just not, you just don't want to have a death grip on it. You can choke up kind of on it. Not really. I wouldn't recommend it because the flipper tab is kind of going to poke you in the finger. So this is really going to be your main grip. This either saber grip or hammer grip. Reverse Slurpee gas station grip is fine, no problems. The sort of pull cut grip, fine too. So perfectly good ergonomics for everyday use. Not recommended for sort of heavy all-day use, but a few pocket knives are, in my opinion. The pocket clip, talked about it briefly. In terms of functionality, it is not reversible, so lefties, you're kind of out of luck with this one. I can't remember if they make a lefty version. You'd have to check that because I didn't. Sorry. So it's not going to be a great knife for lefties because of the pocket clip. Of course, you can, if you're a lefty, you can use the flipper tab, but because of the lock bar, it's going to be hard to reverse flick. I cannot reverse flick it with my left hand, but I'm not really representative because I'm not very good with my left hand, period. So, an actual lefty might be able to do it, but it's still probably not going to be great. The carry of the clip, I think I said before, is about like this, kind of medium. That's good for me. I like that. The tension of the clip is good. You can see it is pretty close to that lock bar cutout. So you would think that could be an issue. However, in practice, I don't really find it to be a problem. The pants I'm wearing now have, you're not going to be able to see this, I'm just going to narrate, have pretty much the thickest pockets you can possibly imagine. I might actually do a review on it. I'm wearing these Prometheus design shorts that are great for EDC stuff, but they have 3 different versions of it in different fabrics. The one I have on now is the sort of heavy canvas cotton fabric, and the pockets are super thick, and this works fine for that. So the pocket clip is very functional, so kudos to Tactile Knife for that. Nothing ruins a pocket carry experience more than a shitty pocket clip, in my opinion. The action I've talked about, the acoustics are good. Let me hold this up to closer to my mic. It has kind of a nice sort of swish sound when you open it. The close is gives you a nice sort of clank. I like it. So It's not a quiet knife. It's not really a super loud knife either. It's maybe on the louder end of the spectrum, but by no means is it going to cause the crowds to disperse when you open it. I think I'm reaching the end of things that I can say about this. I did forget to mention the Backspacer. So it has a, what is that? What would you describe that as? Maybe a half length Backspacer, which wraps around, and the only branding on the knife is back here. It says Tactile. I don't think it even has the blade steel anywhere on the knife, which I actually don't like. I would rather have this small indication of the blade steel somewhere out of the way, but that's okay. It's not a big deal. You bought the knife, you ought to know what steel it is. Yeah, it doesn't say TJ Schwarz anywhere either. So would have been nice maybe if I don't know if he has a logo. But anyway, so yeah, that is about all I can say about the details of the knife. Overall, let's just talk about sort of value and that sort of thing. It is expensive, but that said, it is American made. It is Tactile's sort of premier knife. It obviously is a high precision, very well made piece of pocket machinery. And I think the price is reasonable for what it is. If you look at comparable American-made knives or knives in the same category, I think this at least stands toe-to-toe with them. And in some cases, not going to point fingers, but in some cases, I think you're probably getting a sort of a higher quality build with the Archer than you might get with some similar or slightly higher priced American lockbacks, or not lockbacks, frame locks, sorry. So while I can still talk barely, let me sign out and say, if you liked the video, please click the thumbs up button and like it below. That apparently helps my channel. Please subscribe if you like this sort of wow, I really can't talk now. This sort of content. I also do a fair amount of sharpening and sharpening equipment content, if you like that as well. Oh, I forgot to mention my last video. I want to thank everybody who is subscribed to the channel. I recently passed 500 subscribers, which is, amazing to me. I sort of got into this with zero expectation. I just started doing it because I love knives and I don't really have anyone in my personal life who shares my interests, so I just like to sort of blab on YouTube about them. So yeah, it's really cool that so many of y'all have decided to sign on and listen to me blather on. I appreciate it. I will be back soon. I've got a couple other reviews coming up, and until next time, y'all have a good one.